All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3124, Joseph versus Horn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Joseph, you purchased a used car from the defendant. You started to have some car trouble with it within the first week or so. You want your money back. And you bought this car from him in November.
November 21st.
Mr. Holmes wants the balance that you owe him on the car.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
What year car is it?
2004.
So it's a 10-year-old car.
20-year-old car.
A 20-year-old car. Did you see an ad for it?
No. He was an acquaintance, and I had wrecked my car, and he told me that he had a car available for me to purchase.
How was he an acquaintance of yours?
Just from my place of employment. He was a customer of my place of employment.
You had this 20-year-old BMW.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
When did you buy it?
About 5 years ago.
From whom?
A gentleman in town.
Did you know the gentleman that you
No,
bought
ma'am.
it from? How much did you pay for the car?
I paid $5,500 at the time.
And you sold her the car for $3,000.
That's correct.
And you gave him a $1,000 deposit.
Correct.
And agreed to pay the rest in installments.
Correct.
There was a purchase and sale.
Yes. I also paid the $1,000 plus I paid another $500 because that was the agreement. $500 until paid off.
$500 a what? A month.
Yes, correct. I paid him $1,000, and then 5 days later, I paid him that $500, and then the agreement was the $500 a month.
So far you paid $1,500 for the car. And when did you start to have trouble with it?
9 days after I bought it.
So you drove it for 9 days.
Yes.
And what happened on the 9th day?
I had driven it around town, and then
By the way, is there a bill of sale for this car?
we never made one.
Okay. Did you get the title?
No.
Did you
because
kn-
I wasn't supposed to receive the title until the car was paid off.
Did you have insurance on the car?
No.
Did you have insurance on the car?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
At the time she drove it, you had
No,
insurance?
at the time I sold it to her, but I took the insurance off. And she never gave me another $500. She only gave me $1,000, and then she gave me $200 towards that $500. So it's probably $1,200 total.
So at the time you were driving the car, you had no insurance?
Correct, but I wasn't driving it around.
I don't care if you were driving
I
it
understand
to
that.
get your mail.
Right.
You were driving the car. You already told me that you drove the car in your complaint.
Right, I did drive
Around.
the car. I did drive
Even-
it to the DMV to see if I could get it registered, what the costs were going to be to have it registered. But I never got it registered because I never got a smog. I couldn't get a smog because the damages that were on the vehicle.
Did you ever take the car to be smogged?
No, there was too much damages. There was so much that I had to do.
So the answer is you didn't
No.
take it to be smogged?
No, I did not.
When you purchased the car from the defendant, did it have an up-to-date registration?
No.
Is that right?
That's correct, ma'am.
How long was it since it had been registered?
I want to say 2-3 years.
Well, then you didn't have insurance on it if it wasn't registered.
No, well, I still had insurance.
Just be very
Yeah.
careful. Just be very careful what you say to me. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
If it wasn't registered for 3 years, it didn't have insurance.
Right.
Am I correct that he told me it had insurance, but that he took it off?
Yes, he said he did, but he took the insurance off. He sold it to her.
Okay, so that was not true. What, do you have to think about that?
No, I'm just trying to figure out if my wife usually takes care of the insurance stuff, so I'm not sure if it was on there. I know we've had some vehicles on there that we weren't driving before previous.
Do you know what you just said? You want me to read back what you just
Oh, no,
said?
I know what I said.
Sounds like a lot of gibberish. What you just said to me, it sounds like a lot of gibberish.
Well, I do off-road racing, so some of them I keep. I might not be registered, but I have insurance on just in case something happens.
Off-road racing. You went
Yes.
off-road racing in this 20-year-old BMW?
No, not in that one. I'm just saying previous vehicles I have, so.
I don't care about previous vehicles.
Gotcha.
We're not here about previous vehicles. We're here about this car.
Yes, ma'am.
So now both of you have this car with no insurance, and it hadn't been registered in 3 years, and you don't have a bill of sale.
That's correct.
And you've had the car in your possession from November 26th to December, December to January, January to almost 3 months.
I've been trying to give it back.
No, you haven't tried to give it back. You want to sell it back to him. There's a difference. Giving is giving. Selling it back and wanting your money back are two different things, right?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, we're going to get all the warts out, because when we get all the warts out, it's going to come down to a very simple question. Right now, both of you were driving around in 2023 in an unregistered, uninsured vehicle, right?
Yes.
Right?
I'm no longer driving it. I have not been driving it.
You have not been driving
No,
it.
I have not been driving it.
Where is the car currently?
At my house?
Has it always been in your house since you purchased it?
No.
Okay.
I had to move it because he flattened the tires in my driveway.
Just a second. So you moved it?
Yes.
You moved it where?
Around the corner to my friend's house.
So you moved it?
I did.
Unregistered?
Yes.
Unlicensed?
Yes.
And you want me to buy that, correct? We'll get into this business with him vandalizing the car. You did vandalize the car, sir, did you not? When she stopped making payments on it?
I wouldn't call it vandalized.
Just a second. You vandalized the car.
Tammy Joseph claims car seller Jonathan Holmes sold her a damaged vehicle and refuses to return the deposit. Jonathan is countersuing Tammy for the remaining car payments.
Now, did you touch the car?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How did you touch the car?
Took the battery out of it.
That's vandalizing the car. And why do you think you can do that?
She hadn't paid me any payments. And
Did you tell her you could do it because it's your car?
I told her I still own the car due to the fact I still have the title and she hasn't paid me any payments. So I wanted
So
to
you
make sure
could
she
do
wasn't
it.
gonna-
So you can do it to the car because it was your car.
Correct. That's what I stated, sir.
Quite a pair. I think they actually deserve each other. Okay, so you've had possession of the car for 3 months. According to you, you paid for half the car,
Yes.
right? When you purchased the car, it was 15 years old. Is that right?
About right, yes, ma'am.
You're familiar with cars?
Enough to do the basic stuff on them, yes.
Miss Joseph said that the odometer on the car was turned back.
I did not know at the time. Me and her discussed that when she found that out, and she agreed with me that she knows. I didn't know that. I was not aware of that. I didn't do a Carfax.
I'm not following you. Are you following him? I'm
Hardly.
When she had found that out, she had notified me of it. I told her I was unaware. I did not know it. She hadn't grabbed a Carfax to find it out, and I didn't grab a Carfax when I had purchased the vehicle originally.
Carfax would tell you that.
Yes, ma'am.
You have any proof?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Joseph, pay attention to my question. You have any proof that the defendant turned back the odometer on the car?
Other than the Carfax report, no. I mean,
Well, do you have the Carfax report from the time he purchased the car?
Yes.
And how many miles was on the car when he purchased it? Not when you purchased it, when he purchased it. He didn't buy it new.
All right, can I look, because I don't remember. I know it said 176,000 when he purchased it. Right now it says 123,000.
Oh, can I see that?
Yes.
Absolutely. Because you would agree, Mr. Holmes, you know, you're a smart man, that if you purchased it and there were 176,000 miles on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And if when you sold it to her, there were 126,000 miles on the car, that would have been someone on your team turned back the mileage. That's common sense, sir. I'm not a wizard. I'm not a wizard.
Right. Yes, Your Honor, you're absolutely right.
You know, I married my first husband when I was 21, and I married my second husband when I was 16 on my marriage license. Somebody could do that math, right? In 2018, I see the mileage on the car was 111,000 miles, right?
Correct.
And when you bought it,
123,000.
well, that would be right.
Okay, before that, if you look a little farther back, it's 176,000.
Well, that means that he didn't turn it back. He bought the car in 2018. So I asked you, what proof do you have that he turned the mileage back? He didn't get the Carfax. Duh. But when he got the car, it showed 111,000 miles when he purchased it.
I gave him the same Carfax report when I obtained it.
Look, in 2014, he didn't own the car. It had 176,000 miles on it. Then the next sale of this car was in July of 2018 when he purchased it. Because you've had it, you said about 5 years?
Yes,
Well, it's a
ma'am.
little bit longer than that. But when you purchased the car, it had 111,037 miles on it. That's what it says. New owner reported. Everybody should get one of these things. That's really fascinating. And in 2010, it had 122,000 miles on it.
Right.
He didn't turn it back then. He
I
didn't
never
own
said
it.
he turned it back. I was just showing him that the Carfax and odometer had been rolled back. That was another
That's
reason.
why you're supposed to get the Carfax before you buy the car, madam, not after.
Right. I was never even aware of Carfax until my friend Christina had told me about it when we had to have it towed to my house.
That's certainly not my fault.
No, I'm sorry.
That's not his fault. That's not his fault.
The problem that I'm having is 9 days after I bought it, I had to have it towed because it broke down 40 miles out of town. When he assured me it'd be a good running car, I bought it for my daughter.
He's selling a 20-year-old car for nothing.
But I'm not even able to have it smogged. There's so much damage to the emissions. It would cost $6,000 to have it even brought up to smog.
I understand that. But that's what happens when you buy a used car, when you buy a 20-year-old car.
I trusted that he would
The
tell me.
answer is, unless you want a guarantee, which you get in writing, you buy a used car, you buy it as is. That's the answer.
But
what?
Sorry, Your Honor. I have older BMWs that I use for parts, and I told her for the first 90 days
What do you mean you have old BMWs that you use for parts?
I have bought previous BMWs that I've used for parts, just whole from a junkyard, and
where do you keep them?
I keep them at my cousin's. My cousin's property out there.
I have to tell you, I have very little sympathy for either one of you. You drove around a car and you've been driving it for 2.5 months, or for 2 months, certainly enough to get it around without insurance and without registering the car.
I moved it from one point to another point because he said he was going to take it from me.
Then you sue him for taking the car. But you don't drive it from one place to another to hide it from him and then not pay for it.
I would love to give it back to him.
But he offered to take it back.
But he's not going to give me my money back?
No, he said he would give you your money back, but he would take off for the time that you actually had possession of the car. Isn't that what he said to you?
Yes, Your
Just
Honor.
a second. Well, that's a pretty good deal.
On the 5th is when I told him I didn't want it.
I don't care what you told him, madam. You're not entitled to anything. You're not entitled to anything. It's your car. If the defendant, who's slick, said, I'll take the car back and I'll give you back your money less the time that you had the car in your possession, that I didn't have it, which sounds like a fair deal. If he says you gave him $1,200, not $15, unless you have proof that you gave him $15. Do you have proof that you gave him $15?
Just in text messages between both of us.
Well, I'd like to see that in the text messages that he acknowledges you gave him $1,500.
He also said that he would pay me back $950.
You buy a 20-year-old car unless you have a guarantee for that car. You buy it as is. If it breaks down a half a block away from his house where you bought it, it's still your car. Do you understand?
I guess so, yes.
Now, Mr. Holmes said he told you that he had other BMWs because there's something going on. He acknowledges, he said to you, for 90 days, if it needs parts, I'll give it to you. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did you know what parts it needed?
Tammy Joseph has accused car seller Jonathan Holmes of selling her a damaged vehicle and lying about the mileage. Jonathan is countersuing Tammy for the remaining car payments.
Did you know what parts it needed?
No.
Well, if you didn't know what parts it needed, that's the only guarantee he gave you. For the first 90 days you own the car, he will replace the parts if parts need replacing. He'll cannibalize it from old cars that he's got on a junkyard at his cousin's property.
Your Honor, may I say, can I
All
say-
I want to see is his acknowledgement of $1,500. Do you have it?
No.
Good.
He wouldn't make any kind of connection with her whatsoever.
I don't care. He doesn't have to make a connection with her. She bought an
told her-
as-is used car.
He told her that he would give her back $1,000. Then he didn't show up. Then he said, I'd give you back, it's 12, okay? He just kept blowing her off and blowing her off. And said that he was going to meet with her, and that he never did.
Just
So
a
he
minute.
kept telling her that he was going to give her money back. He just didn't go through with it.
No. What she says is, I told him to refund my deposit and I would give the car back. He said, even though he was the one who committed a crime by tampering with the odometer. That's what you say. Well, there's no proof that he tampered with the odometer. That was an owner 10 years ago who tampered with the odometer. Instead of being civil, he came by my house and he let the air out of the tires. Did you do that, sir?
Yes, I
Say
did.
yes. And stole the battery. And you put in a new battery.
I put in the battery for my old car, yes. So I could move it into my garage so it'd be safe, yes. I did do that.
I thought you said you. I thought
never
you told
said
just a second. Am I correct that she said she moved the car around the corner to a friend's house, not into her garage?
I did
Around
put
the
it in my
corner
Just
garage.
don't speak.
Yes, around the corner to my friend's house.
That was the second time I did that, yes. I did do that. The first time I pushed it into the garage.
What was the offer that you made to her Mr. Holmes, what was the offer that you made to her with
Regarding once that we found out about
car.
the vehicle?
Yes.
I told her ultimately that I would drop the car payment down to $2,000 total and give her an engine that I had, as well as the parts that she needed for the vehicle.
Let's go slowly. Would you read back what he just said to me? I told her that I would drop the car down to $2,000.
$2,000.
Which means if she gave him $1,200, which is what he acknowledges, right?
Right.
That means she would owe another $800 on the car. Is that correct, Mr. Holmes?
That's correct.
And you'd give her the parts that she needed.
That's correct. I have the text here.
I'd like to see
There's
it.
some explicit
Kevin?
language in there, but
Kevin. Would you tell me what this $375 is? I'll give you the $375 back and you take the car back if you don't want it?
that was when I told her that we'll figure out how much it would be for her having the vehicle for a whole month. And so I told her rental cars are about $50. I said, I'll charge you $25 a day for how long you had it. And so that comes up to about $375 left of overall what you would have from what you paid me a deposit. And I can give you that if you give me the car back.
Okay. What are you willing to do for her today, sir?
Nothing.
You wanted to keep the car.
I want her to give me my money back for the vehicle. She's been driving it. I have videos showing her driving it just 2 days ago.
Were you driving the car 2 days ago?
ma'am, I haven't.
Okie dokie. Let me ask you this question. If you were driving the car 2 days ago?
Yes, ma'am.
If he has video of you driving the car 2 days ago, what do you think I'm going to do?
You're probably going to rule in his favor.
Correct. Were you driving the car two
No,
days
ma'am.
ago?
It's been sitting in my garage.
I have videos
It's been sitting on my
also
desk.
30 days before then.
You said this was 2 days ago.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Is that the car?
Yes, it is.
Who's that getting into the car, Miss Joseph?
That's me, but that's
Oh,
not 2 days
shh.
ago.
That's the Stater Brothers parking lot in town where we live.
Where are you parked? In what kind of spot?
Grocery pickup in Stater Brothers.
Yes.
That's Monday, February 12th.
Yes, ma'am.
No, that was that's. I was not. Yes, I was at Stater Brothers, but that not on February 12th. My car has not moved in weeks.
Yeah. Miss Joseph, your complaint against the
My
defendant.
car won't even run. Actually,
Your case against the defendant is dismissed. I don't believe you that you haven't driven the car. I believe that you've driven the car
I have.
without it being registered and without it being insured and certainly without it being smogged.
Yes.
The defendant has a counterclaim, and the defendant's counterclaim is the balance on the car.
And
which-
lost wages.
Forget your lost wages.
I understand.
I should charge myself for lost wages from having to endure this case. She gave you $1,200 for the car,
That's correct, ma'am.
which means she owes you $1,800.
Yes, for $3,000.
Judgment on the counterclaim for $1,800. We're done here.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I didn't think it would turn out this way. I thought he'd be a man of integrity.
I think she was fair in her decisions.
There's nothing I can do with the car. It won't pass smog. I can't put my 16-year-old daughter in it, and unsafe to drive.
The way I tried to make it right was drop it to $2,000, give her an engine and the parts that she needed for it still, and she still didn't want to do so.
He did small repairs on it to make it seem like it ran well.
I think I sold her a car that definitely was manageable, and I think I was fair in telling her for the first 3 months that, she'd get parts for it if a part went out.
40 miles into driving it, it overheated, and it was been bad ever since.
I think she'll be happy that she has the title and
Knowledge that when you buy a used car, there's a stereotype of the used car salesman, and they're not always as honest as they could be, and you're not buying a brand new vehicle, and always do your homework and things like that. I was actually shocked at how shocked the plaintiff was that there were some issues with, like you said, this 20-year-old car that she was getting for close to nothing.
What about this Carfax? I'm actually amazed at what they look like. I've never seen one.
I've seen a few. There's a lot of information you could find there, which is why they tell you to do it
before you
buying
buy
a
the
used car.
Right.
Because some people are not as honest about the history of the car that you're purchasing, and so it's a good way to keep track. So again, timeline, little messed up. Should have looked that up before. But buyer beware. Like you said, you're buying an as-is used car unless you have a guarantee in writing, and she actually made out pretty well here today, given the fact that legally she had no recourse for anything, for any money, for any fixing
No,
of the car.
he was entitled to much money on the car.
Yeah.
That Carfax I find fascinating. I haven't bought a used car in many years, but I did buy in my time used cars and always had a little bit of trouble with it.
Would have been nice to have.
But that Carfax that said 10 years ago, it had 110,000 miles on it. And then it went to 176 and then back down to 120. It's fascinating the amount of information that they keep on every vehicle.
This is Judy Justice. Erin Dean is suing her ex-husband, Dennis Dean, for an unpaid car loan and negligence.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 3122, Dean versus Dean.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Dean, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for a car that was stolen as a result of his negligence.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's start with, you and Mr. Dean were married for the first time in what month and year?
July of 2013.
You and Mr. Dean were then divorced.
That is correct, Your Honor.
In what year?
December 12th, 2019.
You and Mr. Dean were remarried.
This is correct.
What month and year?
October 1st, 2022.
And you separated again, and that marriage was annulled in what year?
August in 2023.
Now, you purchased a car.
Correct.
In what month and year?
October of 2019.
While you were married.
We were separated at the time. We were not living together.
But you were married.
Correct.
So this automobile was purchased during the course of your first marriage.
That is correct.
Do you have a copy of your divorce decree?
Yes, I do.
And does that divorce decree award you the automobile?
Yes, Your Honor, it does.
I'd like to take a look at it. So you were awarded in the divorce the Jeep Cherokee.
Correct, that is correct.
And then you remarried October of 2022.
That's correct, Your Honor.
The Jeep Cherokee, which is the subject of this case, was stolen on what date?
From what Dennis told me, he realized the car was stolen on December 19th, 2022.
While you were still married.
Correct.
Now, you were remarried in October of 2022.
Yes,
And where did you live?
in Pasadena,
What address?
780.
And you both lived there together?
Yes.
Had you lived there before, during your first marriage?
No.
Had you lived there while you were separated?
Yes.
When you remarried and you were living at 780, was the plaintiff living with you?
Yes.
So she moved into your residence?
Yes.
So far, is that correct, Ms. Dean?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you had no other residence?
No,
So you moved into 780.
that's correct.
Mr. Dean, until what date did Miss Dean live at 780, month and year?
January of 2023.
That is false, Your Honor.
Just,
Okay.
I'm not asking you anything.
Okay.
January of 2023. And what happened in January of 2023, sir?
She moved back east,
East to where?
North Carolina, while we were still married.
Okay. The car was stolen in December.
Yes, December 14th.
December 14th, so several weeks before she left.
Yes.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding the car being stolen. First, she was going back east,
Yes.
and she asked you to take her to the airport?
Yes.
Just a second. Did you drive her to the airport?
Yes, I did.
On what date?
It was a week prior to the car being stolen, which was December 7th, 6th or 7th. She asked me
And
to take her to the
Mr.
airport.
Dean, when you took her to the airport, what car did you take her with?
In the Jeep Cherokee.
Did you have another car?
Yes, I did.
Why did you take the Cherokee?
Because it was big enough to put all her luggage in.
So she asked you to.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you left for the airport, where had Mrs. Dean spent the night before?
At our residence.
At your residence,
Yes.
together?
Yes.
And what was the reason that she was going back east?
To visit her friend in Houston.
Before she went to visit her friend, and you were living together as a married couple.
Yes.
Had she given you, or did you have any indication that she was leaving you?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We had prior disagreements as far as where we wanted to live. She wanted me to move back east. She wanted to have another child, which I didn't feel comfortable with.
Did you have a child together?
No,
Who has children
we both do.
from prior relationships?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you had been arguing.
Yes, it was.
Just-
Oh, okay.
You had been arguing. The night before she left, you were still sharing the same residence.
Yes.
So you took her to the airport in her Jeep
Yes.
at her request because it fit all the luggage. And then after you took her to the airport, what did you do with the Jeep?
I parked the Jeep in a gated parking in my residence
How long was she away?
about a week.
When she was coming home, who picked her up at the airport?
I was supposed to.
And did you pick her up at the airport?
No, I did not because she says that she wasn't coming back because I had told her about her car being stolen. And then I told her that once I found out that it was stolen, I got a police report done.
So while she was away for that 1 week,
Yes.
her car was stolen.
Yes.
And it was stolen from where?
Under the gated parking of my residence.
It was in the gated parking?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it.
Here it is. Police report.
Okay. So the car was stolen.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Now I got the dates and I got everything. And the car was stolen and?
Car was stolen due to his negligence.
No, you say negligence. The car was stolen out of a gated area. First of all, even if it was stolen as a result of his negligence, you don't get your money.
Dean claims her ex-husband, Dennis Dean, is responsible for car payments after the vehicle was stolen due to his negligence.
Let me ask you this question. I'm going to maybe phrase it differently. My husband is trying to be helpful, and there's a leak in the faucet in our kitchen that has just been redone. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I have to call somebody to fix this little leak. It's dripping, and I don't want it to get any worse. And my husband said, you don't have to call anybody. I have my toolkit right here. I'm going to fix it. He's a lawyer. He doesn't know about plumbing. But he goes under the sink and he jiggles and jaggles and turns things, and there's a flood. And it not only floods out the kitchen, but it floods the apartment below. And I say, get out. I don't want to know you anymore. You're always doing things like this. You think my husband's responsible if the house is in my name? Get out of here.
Can I explain my situation and what happened, Your Honor, please?
You can. So now you have about 2 minutes to tell me your theory of the case.
When he did take me to the place, I did tell
Not
him
the place, to the airport.
to the airport. I did tell him not to move my vehicle, not to drive my vehicle. He moved my vehicle because he has an unregistered vehicle that is in the previous divorce decree, and he uses that vehicle. He switches out his Infinity plates to drive that vehicle to and from work. I told him not to move my vehicle because I know he likes to move that car, so he told the police officers who rides back and forth the street doesn't see it.
That's not true.
And when he moved my vehicle, he left the keys inside my car. My car cannot start without a push start. So he took out the garage opener, and the reason why is because they were doing maintenance work at his apartment complex at the time where the gate was left open overnight. That's how my car got stolen, because the lady who did take my car, she had access to easily get inside of it, and the keys were inside my vehicle to where she was able to steal it.
Think about my husband, who I'm fighting with all the time, fixing the sink and causing a flood in an apartment or a house that is mine. I can't sue him. But it sounds to me, from what you tell me, that you knew he had been playing around with license plates while you were still together. That's what you just told me. That's what he does.
No, that's not true.
Shh. Listen to me, sir. It may not be true, but that's what you just told me.
It's in text messages, so that's true.
That's what you just told me.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. You have no case against him. It's unfortunate that your car was stolen and it was found, I understand.
Yes,
but it was found
totaled.
Total, yeah.
Well, that's not his fault. Case is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I told him not to drive it, not to move my car, because I know that's what he did. He did it anyways, my car got stolen.
I didn't leave the key in the car. Actually, I had put it in my bag and took it upstairs, but she just went with that, because that's all she had on.
I just hope that I never have to see him again.
I just want peace and just to be left.
Imagine how the courts would be flooded with lawsuits if married people could sue each other for negligence?
Be more backed up than it is right now?
Oh, it would put a complete stop to the justice system.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't even think that in this case he was negligent. I mean, there was debate as to whether or not he left the keys in the car. That could be viewed as a little bit negligent.
But they were a married couple who cohabited together until a couple of days before the car was stolen. And the place where he lived, evidently, which was under construction, somebody left the gate open. Well, that's the person who she ought to sue for leaving the gate open, which allowed her car to be stolen.
Sure.
Not her husband.
Agreed.
Ridiculous.
Case 3115, Brockett versus Carrillo. All parties, please come forward.
Caregiver Cyan Brockett is suing her former client, Catherine Carrillo, for unpaid wages, verbal assaults, and lying to her employer.
Ms. Brockett, it's your claim that the defendant owes you money because she refuses to sign a time card for you. And your vocation is you are a home health aide paid by the state. How long have you had a home health aide?
Since 2018.
I believe that you indicated in your answer that you have MS?
Yes, I do.
How long have you had MS?
Since I was 42, I was diagnosed with it.
How old are you now?
65. A while.
Long time.
I walk to try to keep my strength and muscles going in my legs.
Good for you.
Yeah.
How long have you had the home health aide?
The service was provided to me by disability through Social Security, and that was since 2018.
And when did the plaintiff take you on as a client?
From February 23rd to March 24th, when I terminated her.
And which time cards of hers, because you have to sign a time card, correct?
I get an email that says a time sheet has been submitted by Cyan Brockett. So the first 2 weeks I approved, which I even did with hesitation because she wasn't doing the work that she was hired to do.
But you signed it?
It's electronic signature.
Okay. But you didn't fire her after 2 weeks?
Because she kept promising that she would make up the hours to me.
How many hours a day was she supposed to spend with you?
It was 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And she would come and sit down on my sofa and she would start texting and receiving phone calls and talking. And then one time she said, "Oh, Access didn't pick up my mom. I got to go. I'll make this up to you later." And she got up and left.
Okay, so that was, don't speak. So that was one time?
That was one time.
Okay.
And another time she was texting a lot. I go, "There's work that needs to be done that you agreed to do, and we need to get it done." And she goes, "Oh, I'm having a birthday party for my niece." And she showed me a picture on her phone of a cake with the Chanel, the 2 C's on it. And she goes, "I'm paying for this for my niece. I got a lot of planning to do for her party, so I have to go." And I said, "But what about the work that needs to be done?" She goes, "Well, I could always come on the weekend and do it." So she never did do the hours.
Okay, so that's 2 times out of 2 weeks, and that's Monday through Friday.
Yes.
Well, that's the first 2 weeks. What happened in the second 2 weeks?
Well, I had to go to the pharmacy, and I said I needed to pick up my medication. And then I went in the pharmacy to get my medication. She stayed in the car, and I went and got back in the car, and she came and dropped me off. She said she had to go to her next client. And I said, "It hasn't even been 45 minutes. And she said, "Yeah, well, I'll be back tomorrow." And then she didn't come back the next day, and I was calling her, and she didn't even answer her phone.
Okay.
Giver Cyan Brockett claims her former client, Catherine Carrillo, owes for unpaid wages.
Now, what time is she due at your house?
She was supposed to be there at 9, from 9 to 2.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you telling me that you always got there at 9?
Yes, I am.
Every day that you were there?
Every day. Until March 24th, when she asked me to come at 9:30, which was a Friday.
Why did she say to come at 9:30?
Because her and her friends were going to walk at Apollo Park, and that she wanted to exercise and be with her friends. So instead of coming at 9, could I come at 9:30?
Do you remember that?
I remember that conversation and that particular instance, but I did not ask her to come at 9:30 because my friend would leave to go for her walk at Apollo Park with some other friends at 6 in the morning. So I was going to be back at 9. And I even told her I would be back at 9. and I was back before 9, and she never came at 9.
What time did she come?
At 9:30, I was still waiting for her, and then I got a call from her. I guess it was about 9:45, and she said that she came and she had been there, and she waited over a half hour for me, and then she left. And I asked her, why did you leave when you're supposed to be with me 5 hours a day anyways? And I told her I was back, and she told me that I wasn't back, and I was.
Does she have access to your apartment?
No, she was waiting outside in her car, according to her.
Okay.
And I have text messages to prove it was not 9 o'clock, it was 9:30. And she didn't get back until 10.
Okay. If she got back at 10, how far do you live from her house?
I wasn't even at her house. I was at another client's house in the same senior living. And she knew that. So all she had to do was call me, and I would have been at her house.
On March 24th, you say, Catherine texted me, your first name is Catherine.
Yes.
And said she was now at home. I told her it was not my job to wait around for her.
Right.
Well, it is your job if you want to get paid for that day.
I'm not asking to get
Just
paid
a second. So
Yes,
you're not
right.
asking to get paid for that day?
No, I'm asking to get paid for the other days that I worked up until that day.
Okay. Well, the 24th, but you left on the 24th.
Yes.
So what days are you asking to get paid for?
March 16th to March 23rd.
Would you show me a calendar? How many days was that during the week?
The 16th of 2023 would have been a Thursday.
Thursday, so
the
16,
16th and
17.
So that's 2 days. The 20th would have been Monday, the 21st, Tuesday, 22nd, Wednesday, 23rd, Thursday, 6 days.
You were asking to get paid for 6 days?
Yes.
Which you were actually present?
I was actually present and working.
Now, the first 2 weeks you've described to me 2 events that happened within the first 2 weeks. In the second 2 weeks that she worked for you, and we're really talking about 6 days only in the next 2 weeks, because that's all the days that she actually worked. Do you have specific days that she wasn't there?
She's saying she was there, and she never did any of the work that she was hired to do.
Well, that's a different story. Then you should have fired her. But if she was there, she was there.
When she was there, she was talking on the phone and texting.
Well, that's okay. I mean,
That's a lie.
Yeah. But she was at your house talking on the phone.
Yes.
Okay. Now, show me how much you were paid per hour.
At that time, we were paid $17.25 per hour. As of January 1st, we got a raise to $18 an hour.
$17.25 is what you were earning at the time you worked for her.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Sarah Rose, you have your computer out?
Yeah.
We're going to do $17.25 times 5. How much?
$86.25. $86.25.
Times 6.
$517.5.
$517.50. Okay. Now, punitive damage for malicious lies to employers.
Yes. She called IHSS, the company that pays us, and said that the reason why she refused to sign my timesheet was because I left the country.
Okay. I'd like to see proof of that.
I don't have that proof.
Well, then you don't get paid for that.
She also verbally attacked me on May 19th.
Okay, so I'd like you to tell me what happened on May 19th.
On May 19th, she caught me outside in Gardens 2, which is in the back and not part of her section. And up until this time, I had never seen her back there. So she was stalking me and found me, and she called me a liar, a thief, and a fraud, and a bitch.
Okay.
And I could not do anything about it. And I was embarrassed because she did it in front of my employer.
Your Honor, that's a complete lie. I walk my dog, and I have a map here of the complex, and I was walking, I do the big circle
Just
first.
tell me what you said to her.
I didn't say nothing to her. She came out and she told me, I want my money. And I turned around and I said, get away from me. She goes, you're going to pay me. You're going to be sorry. I'm going to sue you. You're going to pay court costs. I'm going to make you pay for my attorney. I said, don't talk to me and get away from me. And I kept walking. I never stopped. I never stalked her.
Okay.
I also reported the incident to the office where she lives, and she has more than one incident.
I don't know that either.
That's not true.
Shh. I know that she has to give you $517.50 because whether you were useless working for her or not, your body was there. And if your body was there for 6 days, 5 hours a day, you're entitled to be paid. $517.50, judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Because I didn't kiss her butt.
That seems completely crazy considering she never did anything, you know.
I didn't do what she wanted. I didn't jump. I didn't wait outside my car in the freezing cold, risking my health.
And the demands of the job of an in-home support worker is to help with tasks around the house. And she never did any of them. So I don't know what was crazy about that.
The defendant was really miraculous. She's had MS for 42, 52, 60, almost 25 years. Yeah. She walks her dog. She walks around the big circle, little circle, and she really
just needs a few extra help with a few tasks
probably
around
a little
the house.
extra help with moving things, cleaning things around the house. That's it. Lucky that she lives in a country that has a good government.
Yeah.
So he is aggressive.
Yes, ma'am. He has a history of it. He was cocking his fist, looking, like he was going to jump on me. No. At which point he described vividly how his dogs would tear someone limb for limb.
Now I would like you to tell me what I can believe. Do you understand?
Right.
Listen to me. I know everything.
This is Judy Justice. Kathy Berg Jones and Brian Jones are suing their neighbor, Jason Hart, for damages to their Jeep, harassment, and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 3159, Burge Jones versus Hart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You've been living in your home for a long time.
Yes.
Yes.
It was your father's,
Yes, ma'am.
but you've been occupying it with your wife now for the last 11 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you own the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it left to you by your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe the property for me, please. Is this a picture of the property?
Yes.
Okay, so it
Yes,
looks as if it's country.
Yes.
Property.
We live at the end of a dead-end road.
How many acres do you have?
About a half acre.
And the defendant's home is relatively close to yours.
Yes.
You have a contiguous property line at some point. You want to go show me where the property line is?
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. The property line goes right down through here somewhere, right through the middle between the two houses.
Okay. And show me where your yard is.
That would be this right here. And it goes back down this way and
Well,
back
that's
over.
a lot of trees. Where is
Yeah.
the backyard of your house?
Right here. This here's the backyard. This here's the front yard. This here's my driveway.
Mm-hmm. Show me where you keep your dogs.
Right in this area right here.
In the backyard.
Okay. And it's fenced in?
It's fenced in.
Okay. And how many dogs do you have?
4.
And they're big dogs?
The 2 of them are, yes.
Well, tell me
The
what
other
they
2
are.
are smaller.
What are they?
They are Boxer and Shepherd, King Shepherd mix.
How long have you had them?
Well, let's see. How long have I had them?
8 years.
8 years, I guess.
Are they outside and inside dogs or just outside?
Inside and out.
And when do you leave them outside?
Just whenever they got to use the restroom. I don't leave them out all day long or nothing. They go outside and use the bathroom and they come back in.
Okay. You can come back now. Mr. Hart.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been living in your home for how long?
Since October. October 6th, 2023.
Is it a home that you purchased?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many acres is your home?
Well, including the front part that is at the end of the road, it comes to about an acre.
Who did you purchase the house from?
I did it through the probate courts.
Explain that to me.
So it's a process where if someone could possibly not make their bills and they have passed, the court system for Jefferson County would purchase the property and put it up through probate to cover the costs. Yes, ma'am.
How much did you pay for your house?
I paid $12,000.
And describe the house for me.
It's an old farmhouse that was framed in 2x16 lumber.
How big is it?
It is, in totality, probably about 2,000 square feet.
Bedrooms, bathrooms?
Currently, it is framed in for 3-bed, 2-bath.
Is it finished?
No, ma'am.
So you bought the property in the house unfinished, just framed?
Well, actually, it had an old 1970s trailer that had been butted up to it. And the roof that you're seeing there is what would be basically like a pole barn that had built over the structure to keep the rain off of the old trailer. And I have come in now and I have started removing that trailer to make it all a house.
You have experience in construction?
Yes,
okay. Do you live there full time?
Yes, ma'am.
So the house part is finished enough for you to live in it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is what it's about. I assume, Mr. Jones, that you knew the prior neighbor who lived in the trailer.
Yes, ma'am.
How long was the property vacant next door?
Probably close to a year, I guess.
Did you know that the property was being put up for
Yes, ma'am.
auction? How did you find out?
The realtor came by and was saying that it was going to go up for sale.
Did you want to buy it?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened?
Well, I couldn't come up with the money to get the loan, so I had to pass on it, but I bought the property on the other side of me.
For how much?
$20,000.
And how big a property is that?
That is probably about 3/4 of an acre.
Smaller than
Smaller than that.
than
yeah.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
And you paid
$20,000.
substantially more for it.
Yes.
What did you need more property for?
I just wanted, I wanted to buy both houses on both sides of me, just so I didn't have no neighbors, is what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I can make one big backyard and fence it all in, so my dogs had plenty of room to run. So there's what I'm doing with the property on the other side of me, is I'm gonna fence the whole yard in so that they can run back there and behind both houses.
Okay, now that we have a little bit of background so that I understand the background. So you wanted to buy the property that the defendant ultimately bought, but you couldn't come up with the money to buy that property.
Right.
But came up with almost double that amount to buy the property on the other side.
It was
I'm sorry.
it was financed through the owner. It was owner financed, and he sold it to me without no money down or nothing.
Yeah, we're paying monthly on it. We're paying a payment every month on it.
Okay. It is your claim, each of you claim that the other is guilty of harassing the other party over a period of time. Mr. Hart's complaint with regard to the harassment, I believe, is primarily owing to the dog barking.
Well, just noise.
Dogs.
Yes.
Noise complaints. Noise, music, and the dogs barking.
Mowing lawnmowers at night, running power tools from 9 to 12 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m.
Okay, noise, primarily noise.
No.
Shh.
Kathy Berg Jones and Brian Jones claim their neighbor, Jason Hart, owes for Jeep damages caused by his turkey, as well as filing a false restraining order. Jason is countersuing for harassment.
Okay, you have several complaints. And let's take the easy ones first.
Okay.
You claim that Mr. Hart's animal, a turkey, damaged your car by flying on it.
Well, climbing on it, pecking it, scratching it, yes. I have video of it.
Just a second. When did that happen?
It happened on December 8th. I noticed it when I was at the grocery store.
I didn't ask you anything. I asked you when did it happen. Okay. That was December 8th of 2023.
Correct.
Do you keep turkeys, Mr. Hart?
I had one turkey, yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long have you had that turkey?
I hatched that turkey from an egg last spring, which was probably in May of 2023.
You did that yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
I've tried to do that with duck hatchlings unsuccessfully. I had a whole room with heaters and lamps and whatever. I am such a bad hatcher. So I'm going to digress for 1 second. Just indulge me. I want to know how you hatched it.
So I had a group of heritage breed turkeys at the other house that I was working on. And those turkeys had done very successful, laid me over 100 eggs. And we were able to incubate them because turkeys are inherently...
How many were you...
I was able to hatch 6.
What kind of mechanism did you use?
It's an automatic. It's something almost out of Jurassic Park, honestly. It's a little conveyor belt. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and it turns the... I used the same thing. Nothing happened with mine. I got scrambled eggs.
The one that I have bought is extremely good. And it wasn't very expensive, honestly.
And it takes how many days? I forgot.
For a turkey, about 27.
Okay, so you've had this turkey for...
At that point,
in December.
8 months or so.
Okay. You've been living on property for 11 years more than that. Are there wild turkeys in this area?
Yes, ma'am.
But they're brown.
Just a second. But there are wild turkeys. Their color is brown.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually know that because we have wild turkeys on property in Connecticut. Well, we used to have a family until somebody, I think, took them around November. What color is your pet turkey?
So it is a Royal Palm, so it is black and white.
And they fly.
They can fly. I clip one wing so that they have a harder time doing so.
But they can fly?
Yes, they can.
Okay. And the turkey that was on your car, and you said you had a video of that for me to see, it caused damage to your car.
Oh, yes. Significant.
And Mr. Hart, you would acknowledge that if your turkey caused damage to their car, you would be responsible?
Yes, ma'am, if they can prove that the damage was from my turkey.
Okay, so would you go over, one of you go over, show me your house.
Okay. This is our house right here.
Okay. And which is your car?
That's my car right there, my Jeep Renegade.
Okay. Would you play the video for me, please? Well, that's clearly a black and white turkey. That would be yours, not a wild turkey.
I don't see a name tag on the turkey.
There's on top of it right there. So those big scratches came in.
Certainly a curious-looking thing. Was this taken from a Ring camera or something else, or a stationary camera?
Oh, yeah, we have cameras on the house.
Okay.
Security.
That's it for the video.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, stop.
So you saw the turkey on top of the
Yes, ma'am.
car. Okay. Can I see photographs of the car, please?
They start right here, and then you go back. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so your car was scratched in several areas.
Yeah, some of them are buffable, and some of them are deep gouges. And some of them are peck marks. And
It was scratched. What year car is this?
2018.
Do you have an estimate for the repair?
Yes, I have.
May I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
If you have more than one, I'll look at more than one.
I don't have an estimate. I was never given one.
Yes, he was.
Do you have insurance on this car?
Yes, ma'am. Full coverage.
Okay, and how much is the insurance covering? What's your deductible?
$1,000.
Did you have the car fixed?
No, I haven't had it fixed yet. I took him the estimates on February 7th, and that was when he started giving me...
Okay, but you notified your insurance company, I assume?
No, I didn't tell them yet.
Well, you should. This happened in December because this was not an intentional act on Mr. Hart's part.
Correct. I was going to pay for it myself instead of turning it into the insurance because I was going to get it painted and fixed myself.
Well, because your estimate is for $2,600, which may be reasonable or not, considering it's a relatively new car. But I assume you have a note on the car and full coverage.
Right, yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
So your deductible is $1,000, and that's what he would be responsible for, not the $2,600, $1,000, correct? Of course. It'd be different if he walked over to the car and slashed it with something else, you know, with a utensil and did something purposefully to the car or even negligently to the car. But he didn't. This was an act that was done by a pet that should have been in his control. So between the two of you, he's responsible, but he's not responsible if you have insurance and if your deductible, you said, is $1,000.
Right. The reason I was going to pay for it, though, was because with you go and turn it in, even if it's not, you know, whatever, it's going to count against me and my insurance, and it's going to make my rates go up more.
Well, that's too bad.
I'd rather...
Well, that's too bad. He's not paying the rest. I suggest you have insurance. I suggest that you use it.
Right.
Unless you've used your insurance previously a lot. Well, if you haven't, they're not going to increase your rates. Not on this kind of thing. The car was stationary, and it was an act of vandalism by a wild turkey. They can't blame you for that.
Kathy Bird Jones and Brian Jones have accused their neighbor, Jason Hart, of owing for Jeep damages caused by his turkey. Jason is countersuing, claiming Kathy and Brian are harassing him.
Okay, now, the next part of your case has to do with you.
Yes.
And it has to do with a restraining order that was filed against you by the defendant that you said was a false restraining order that caused you some difficulty. So I'm going to start with you.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
filed a restraining order against Mr. Jones?
Yes, ma'am, on September 13th, 2023.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding that.
On September 9th, I had made a call to 911, which I have the call log for and the video or the audio recording of. Kathy had told me that a tree had fallen on her after screaming, "Hey, hey, hey," repeatedly at me to get my attention because they didn't know my name. At which point I turned around and I said that was very rude, and I was probably pretty harsh with it because I don't like being screamed at. And then once I realized that she was possibly hurt, I asked her, should I call 911? Which she answered to, yes, no, no, no. But I took her first inclination, called 911 right away. They came out to render services. And I honestly think I saved her life.
Was the tree on her?
There was no tree. She had started a gasoline fire that we had found out later in a court during that ex parte, that she had set the fire with gasoline and it had blown up on her leg.
No.
Shh, just a second. So he's going to tell his story. So you called 911.
Yes, ma'am.
And they came out.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
Well, she had, I guess it was her sister or someone, take her to the hospital instead of the ambulance. And at that point, she came back. I think she had gotten some stitches in her leg. And she immediately walked over to my property and started kind of getting at me for, hey, what in the world was that?
This was on September?
Untrue.
The same day.
Would you do me a favor?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
You can't say I'm sorry again.
Okay.
Go ahead. This was on September.
This was the same day, just
9th.
a couple hours after the
9th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After she was released from the hospital, she came back where you were. Were you working outside or were you inside?
I was actually, I have pictures of it, but I was working on the house. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And tell me what happened.
She came up and was very upset with me for having called 911.
Tell me what she said. Upset is a conclusion. Tell me what she said.
What in the hell was that all about? Getting pretty aggressive with me. At which point I returned with, I'm sick of you guys. You got to shut your damn dogs up. It's been a constant problem ever since I stepped foot on this property, and it needs to stop.
So the problem existed well before this fire mishap. It's happened because, and I read in your papers, that these 4 dogs are out most of the time and barking.
Absolutely. Kathy is home every single day, and they're kind of out as they please. They sometimes leave the back door open to just come and go.
Okay. And have you registered complaints to them about it?
To them, yes, absolutely. That was how the reason that Brian brought the machete over to my house.
Just a minute. When, for the first time, did you register a complaint about it? To them?
To them. So the next day, Brian...
No, before that. You've been there for a while, and the dogs were bothering you. I'm just trying to find out whether when it first started, you either called or approached the plaintiffs and said, listen, your dog's incessant barking is really irritating.
I honestly can't remember. I just know that in the 2 months leading up to this, that I had not been able to get them to stop with the dogs.
Okay. So then when you called 911, plaintiff refused to go by ambulance. She did go to the hospital. She came back. She came to you and said to you, what the hell was that all about? And you said to her, stop your dogs from barking.
Yes, and probably exchanged some colorful language.
Okay. And what happened next?
I told her to get off my property and not to come back.
And?
And the next day, Brian calls me over to the property line in between our houses.
So Mr. Jones came out, called you over. You were working outside. I assume he was outside. Called you over to the property line, and?
And he got very aggressive with me.
Well, that's a conclusion. Tell me what he did.
He was cocking his fist, looking, like he was going to jump on me, telling me that you better be glad that I'm on this side of the property line and not your side of the property line, and that's why I'm over here. And you're starting to really me off. At which point he described vividly how his dogs would tear someone limb for limb if they ever got into their backyard. That he can't walk his dogs because of how he's afraid of what they would do around other people. And that's also in the court documents from the ex parte that he was sworn under testimony and testified to.
That he did?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it.
I don't have that with me.
Well, then it doesn't exist.
Okay. I understand.
Good. Okay. So he is aggressive.
Yes, ma'am. He has a history of it. I have that here as well.
With you. I'm talking about with you.
At that moment, that was the first time that he
That was
had
the first interaction.
Yes, ma'am.
With you. Was it based on that interaction that you filed for a protective order?
No, ma'am.
What happened next?
I'm on my property, and Brian told me that he was working on his new house, and he was working with his machete, and he saw that I was doing something. He came over to help. But at no time had he ever been on my property to help me with anything. And he showed up with his knife, kind of playing with it menacingly in his hands, asking me, hey, you want me to help you lift that wall? But the last interaction we had just had was the most aggressive thing that I've honestly dealt with in my entire life.
Okay. So it was based on that you filed for a
Yes,
protective
ma'am,
order.
because I went to the police station.
Now I would like you to tell me, Mr. Jones, what I can believe. Do you understand? Is it correct that, pay careful attention to my questions, is it correct that your wife accidentally started a fire?
No, ma'am.
Was there a fire?
Yes, ma'am.
That she started it on purpose?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the purpose of it?
To burn up the brush that I'd cut down prior to her starting the fire.
Was she injured?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. It was not a street.
Just a second. Was she injured?
Yes,
This
ma'am.
all happened on September 9th.
No.
When did it happen?
Like the 7th.
Was the
September
7th?
7th.
Okay. And you have hospital records to show me that it was the 7th?
Yes.
Okay. And when the fire caught onto your leg, Miss Jones, where did it catch on to you?
I never caught on fire.
Were you medically treated?
For not being on fire.
Were you medically treated
Yes.
on September 7th?
Yes, ma'am, I was for
Okay. What were you
stick
treated?
one in my leg.
Shh.
Okay.
You were medically treated on September 7th.
Yes.
For what?
For being stabbed in the leg by a branch from one of the bushes that he was cutting down.
Okay. So
It's
you
like a
was-
spear.
Shh.
You want to answer or not?
You had some stitches?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did the defendant call 911? Shh. Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know everything. You have an argument with your neighbor.
He was threatening me with taking me to court for my dogs barking.
After I told him that I was going to bring a lawsuit against him because of the dogs, he said that he would take that lawsuit, wipe his ass with it, and throw it on the ground.
So you knew that your dogs were annoying to him?
No.
When I speak to you, you answer. When I don't speak to you, you don't answer. Do you understand?
This is Judy Justice. Previously on Judy Justice.
You claim that Mr. Hart's turkey damaged your car by flying on it.
Well, climbing on it, pecking it, scratching it, yes.
What color is your pet turkey?
So it is black and white.
Well, that's clearly a black and white turkey. That would be yours.
I'm on my property, and he showed up with his knife, kind of playing with it menacingly in his hands. I had made a call to 911. Kathy had told me that a tree had fallen on her, and I honestly think I saved her life.
Was the tree on her?
There was no tree. She had started a gasoline fire, and it had blown up on her leg.
Did the defendant call 911? Shh, listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know everything.
And now, the conclusion. Kathy Berg Jones and Brian Jones are suing their neighbor, Jason Hart, for damages to their Jeep and filing a false restraining order against them.
Did the defendant call 911?
Yes.
And as a result of the defendant calling 911, an ambulance showed up.
Yes.
But you decided not to go in the ambulance.
Correct. Too much money. They told me not to.
You decided not to go in the ambulance.
Yes, after the ambulance people just told me.
So somebody took you to the
sister.
hospital. And when you came home, tell me when you saw the defendant.
He was outside.
Shh. He was outside.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with him.
Look
at me.
Okay. I went over to him and I asked him, because I was confused, and I asked him why he did that, why he acted that way. And that
Shh.
Okay.
Acted what way?
Was like rude, said, how rude, and refused to come over and help me.
Listen to me. When I speak to you, you answer. When I don't speak to you, you don't answer. You don't say anything to her. You don't coach her. Do you understand?
Gotcha.
Perfect. So you went over to him to complain.
No, I went over to him to find out why he acted the way he acted, because it was very strange. Most people would come over and help somebody when they got hurt. He was like, told me I was rude and didn't want to come help me while I was bleeding profusely, and it just was
Where was
weird.
your husband?
He was at work.
Prior to you going over to ask him why he was so rude, had he discussed with either you or your husband the barking of your dogs?
No, except for the fact that he would play alarms and stuff like that, telling me he's trying to train my dogs not to bark and stuff like that.
Well, so just a second. So you knew that your dogs were annoying to him. I'm not saying right or wrong. You know, dogs bark.
Yeah, they bark.
But I'm telling you you never know where this mind is going. So don't try to anticipate your answer to where I'm going.
All right.
You understand? It's not going to help you.
I got it.
So you do understand, and you did understand, that he had a problem with your dogs barking.
Yes, I did.
Before.
Yes.
Okay. So this wasn't a pleasant, why did you do what you do and were rude to me and didn't come over to help me yourself? So there was an exchange between the two of you. That was an unpleasant exchange. And not only are you upset because you had lots of stitches in your legs, according to you, probably in discomfort, but now you have an argument with your neighbor over why he didn't come over sooner to help you.
I wouldn't really call it an argument because it was just me trying to figure out why he reacted the way he did. It didn't make any sense. I didn't understand because most people go over and try to help someone when something like that happens. And his answer was, I didn't want to be liable for what happened to you. I was like, how are you going to be liable for what happened to me on my property?
I don't know. So when your husband came home from work, or did you call him? I assume you have a cell phone. Did you call him from the medical facility that you went to?
I called him from the yard whenever I got hurt. I was talking to him on the phone, on my cell phone.
Oh, so you could have actually called 911.
Yeah, I didn't need him to call.
When he came home from work, did you have a conversation with him about your interaction with Mr. Hart that day?
I do believe
That's is it a yes or a no?
I said I do believe I told him.
Of course you did. What do you mean you do believe you told him? Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Now we're going to move forward to, I think, the 13th. Is that the...
Yes, the extra
That's
day.
the day? Now, Mr. Jones, tell me your version of the interaction that you had. Now, let's use this as a backdrop. So I want you to know where I'm coming from. The two neighbors have had some problems over noise complaints from the time he actually moved into his property. Then your wife is injured. And as far as she told you, Mr. Hart was less than sympathetic in coming over to help her when she was hurt, correct?
Correct.
She told you all of that.
Right.
And then with that in mind, between the 9th and the 13th, you had no interaction with Mr. Hart.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So tell me...
He did, actually.
Shh.
Kathy Berg Jones and Brian Jones claimed their neighbor, Jason Hart, is responsible for Jeep damages and for filing a false restraining order against them. Jason is countersuing for noise harassment.
Now, tell me what your version of what happened with this knife machete and why you even had any conversation with him. Go ahead, because I read your complaint.
Okay. I was out on my property cleaning the brush off, chopping it down with a machete, and I was sharpening my knife, and I seen him over there trying to stand up a wall by himself. And I just thought to myself, be a neighbor and go over and ask him if he needs some help, lifting it up. And at the time, I was sharpening my machete, and I walked over there and I asked him.
And what did you say to him?
I said, hey, man, you need some help to stand that wall up? Do you need help putting that up? I said, I can help you, I said, I'm not doing nothing right now. I said, I can help you stand it up if you want. And he goes, oh, no, I got to take some timbers down or something that was standing up in the middle of the trailer. I said, well, if you need any help, just let me know. I said, I can come over here and help you stand it up when you get ready to put it up, just trying to be neighborly. And I'd already forgotten all about the other stuff that had happened, It comes in my mind and out of my mind just as quick as it enters. I don't dwell on stuff like that, it's no big deal to me. And I just asked him if he needed some help.
The fact that your wife wasn't helped and had severe damage to her leg, she had to have stitches, it just went out of your head?
No, the prior conversation that we had went out of my head because I didn't have no kind of ill feelings against him or nothing. I was just trying to be a neighbor and help him out to stand his wall up to help him put it in place because I seen he was having trouble getting it up. And I didn't think nothing of it whenever I had the machete in my hand and I was sharpening it. It wasn't no big deal to me. I was just sharpening my knife to go over there and clear some more brush off. I didn't have no ill intentions about trying to use it on him or anything else. There wasn't no intimidations there. Not like whenever you come out the house with the gun and start shooting it 50, 60 times in a row, that there's intimidation.
Is that what happened with the machete?
No, ma'am.
Tell me again. Did he come up and ask you if he could help you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he say it in just that way?
No, it's not what he said. It's the fact that he couldn't have seen me from where he was working.
Yes, I could.
Shh. Is what he came up and said to you, can I help you?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said?
No, thank you.
And he said?
Okay, and it went off the property.
He said, okay, and left?
Yes.
And it was based on that interaction that you filed for a protective order?
Yes, because I went to the police and asked them what I should do.
Shh. You can't tell me what the police told you, sir. That's hearsay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see what you wrote in your affidavit seeking a protective order. And they dismissed your protective order.
Yes, ma'am, because they said that it only constituted 1 out of 2.
Just a second. It determined the court hears testimony, which means they took testimony and they determined that there was insufficient evidence to justify a full protective order.
Yes, ma'am.
I would have ruled the same way. Okay, so this actually further expands what the problems have been, at least in your perception of them. He said, I'm afraid of the respondent, Brian Jones. Brian Jones is a drug dealer with constant foot and vehicle traffic who has threatened me and brought a weapon within 3 feet of me at my house. Is that the machete you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He knows that I am working with the police to stop the crime on my road. He has rage issues and is addicted to drugs. On September 9th, Brian told me he doesn't call 911. He takes matters into his own hands.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't tell me that.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Did he say he doesn't call 911?
Yes, ma'am. After I told him that I was going to bring a lawsuit against him because of the dogs, he said that he would take that lawsuit, wipe with it, and throw it on the ground.
Did you say something to him, Mr. Jones, about, careful, about not calling 911 to your house? Careful. Did you say anything to him about not calling 911 to your house? That's a yes or a no?
Yes, I told him that I do not call 911.
Just a second. That's what I thought. So at the time you went over to him, and that was on what date? On the 13th? I told you the same thing I'm telling him.
Yes,
if he doesn't know the answer, he'll say, I don't know the answer. Was that on the 13th?
Yes.
Okay. So on the 13th, you said to him, I don't call 911, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I said that.
And tell me, why did you say that to him?
Why? Because
just a second.
Because he was threatening me with calling the cops on me and taking me to court for my dogs barking.
Taking our dogs.
Your case is dismissed.
I didn't say anything.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And you're annoying.
You haven't even given me a chance to say anything.
I just had a whole discussion with you. What do you mean? I asked you all kinds of questions. No. Now I'm asking your husband questions. And you're not to interfere.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
I understand,
and you
ma'am.
apologized already once. You want me to read it back to you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good.
Could I say something, please?
No. No, you can say nothing. It's all coming together now. So the second issue in this case is whether or not Mr. Hart had sufficient basis in his mind to seek a protective order, even if it was ultimately dismissed. And the answer is he had sufficient basis based upon what you said to him and what had transpired with your wife to feel as if he was threatened. So your first part of your lawsuit was for the damage to your car, and for that you're being awarded $1,000 to have your car fixed. You're going to go through insurance. The second part of your lawsuit is that you want to be compensated for a false protective order. That part of your complaint is dismissed because, in my judgment, Mr. Hart had sufficient basis to think that he might be in danger, and he wanted, it's not a question, Mr. Jones. You can shake your head all you like. It's a perception of his, not yours, of his. So that part of your lawsuit is dismissed. The last part of your lawsuit has to do with harassment. Now, who is going to tell me, you are going to tell me about the harassment. Tell me the first instance of harassment.
I would imagine that we'd have to go with saying that it was right after the ex parte was dismissed, and he started.
So that right after the ex parte was dismissed, that would have been September 25th.
Correct.
So after September 25th, go ahead.
Okay, that was when.
Don't read anything.
Okay, no, I'm just.
You should be able to tell me.
Kathy Berg Jones and Brian Jones want their neighbor, Jason Hart, to pay for Jeep damages caused by his turkey. Jason claims Kathy and Brian have harassed him with loud noise.
Go ahead.
Okay, after September 25th, when it was dismissed and everything, the turkey, it wasn't long after that the turkey attacked my car, and I went over to him. He told me to get him estimates, and so I went to go get them. At the time, he had been calling the police saying that our dogs bark, this and that, which they're in the house most of the time. But anyway, I was so nervous over all the harassment and everything he was doing and all that. I actually got shingles and was in the hospital on my birthday. And I finally got out of there and all that and got the estimates to him. And he told me that, how, you know, my turkey did it. And so then I went and filed a small claims case. And when that happened, the day he was served, which was, I believe, the 16th or the 15th.
Of what?
That was when, it was the 15th of February.
Just a second. So far, I don't hear any harassing, but shh. So far, there's no harassing behavior. So the 15th of February, you served him with a small claim summons.
Correct.
Okay, and what happened after that?
Then he started calling the police and having them come out to our house at night, and then the next day in the morning, and then the next night, telling them our dogs were barking. When I was doing, and then when I was bringing the dogs in and trying to keep them from barking, we stand at our back door and make our dogs hurry up and come back in and tell them not to bark, which we're in the woods, there's coyotes, all kinds of stuff out there. They're gonna bark, but we're doing everything we can to try to accommodate him and make the dogs not bark, so he quit calling the police. Because, I mean, he's trying to get our dogs taken.
Is that what you're complaining about, that he called the police to complain about your dogs?
And about Brian working on the other property, because he works a full-time job.
Shh.
Yeah.
He can't complain about him working. He could complain about noise.
He does, yeah.
Well, that's noise. He's allowed to do that. That part of your complaint is also dismissed for harassment. He's allowed to do all of that. So on your case, I'm awarding you $1,000 to fix your car. That is Mr. Hart's responsibility. Mr. Hart, you have a counterclaim for harassment.
Yes, ma'am.
For the dogs barking.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for the dogs barking?
No, ma'am. Also for running their lawnmower at nighttime, consecutive nights, doing laps for no reason, running mowers with broken decks where the blade doesn't even work correctly, and basically grading the property instead of mowing it to the point where they're covering my property with dust for 30 minutes or more, to the point where I probably even have scratches on my car. And
you have any audio,
yes,
video
ma'am. There's video
of that?
evidence of all of this.
I would like to see the audio of the dogs barking.
Okay.
I assume you have that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What's next?
I mean, I have way more where that came from.
I don't have to hear any more. You know, we live in a really nice place in the summer and spring, and when the next door property is being renovated, loud, machines, noise, all kinds of stuff. It's irritating for a long time. There's nothing in that video that you showed me, Mr. Hart, actually, that shows that they were doing anything maliciously. If they're mowing their lawn and it's a loud lawnmower, it's a loud lawnmower.
Well, I mean, they're covering my property and my cameras and shining lights on my house, projecting lights onto my house because I didn't want to have the street light turned on. And so then they actually were able to get themselves added onto my power account, cut my power, and get the power turned on. She's actually on my power account right now with her phone number.
Can I see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Jones, he's going to show me a document, so don't shake your head no.
Okay.
Are you on his power account? Is the answer yes or no?
No, absolutely not.
Do you pay your own power?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I'd like
Miss Williams, right here. Sorry. Sorry, man.
I don't know what this is. What is it that you just gave me?
It was an email that I received before they cut my power saying that her phone number was added to my account as one of the registered users.
Did you have it taken off?
I've added a new password, yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I don't know how that happens.
No, me
She's
neither.
not clever enough. Okay. Your counterclaim, Mr. Hart, is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. The remainder of the plaintiff's claims are dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Honestly think that it was a poor decision.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that we get the car taken care of, but There's so much more that needed to be addressed with him.
These dogs are barking 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock at night. I've lost 2 job opportunities because I've missed interviews because I'm not able to sleep at night.
He keeps trying to get our dogs taken, and he keeps coming up with all these crazy stories and lies.
I will be out of this as soon as possible because of the circumstances that I'm being under on a daily basis.
I really do wish he would move. I mean, his whole thing was supposed to be fixing the house up so he could sell it, but now he's living there and he's making our life hell. I think he wants our property, actually.
Now, if somebody asked my advice about those 2 people as being neighbors, I would tell the defendant to cut his losses, sell that property, and get out.
And never look back.
And never look back. Take a loss, maybe. Maybe not. He's done some improvements on the house. But plaintiffs have a long-term investment in whatever they're doing in that house. And that's not going to change. So if this man thought he got a bargain at first.
It cost him in the end.
It may cost him in the end, may lose a few $1,000s and a little bit of work that he's done, some work that he's done on the house. But staying there is a lifetime of aggravation. So if I were a good friend of his, I would tell him, cut your losses and find someplace else to live and check out your neighbors before you buy a...
लोग पागल कैसे